All right. What I want to talk about tonight, actually, let me reveal it. Well, let me say, I want to talk about in spiritual warfare, I want to talk about the importance of discipline. Okay, discipline. Let's begin our discussion here. Now, tonight we are going to be discussing when Peter denied Jesus. So if you will find the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter, so much happens in Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, beginning at the 26th verse, it was very easy for me to remember that. When Dr. Fuller was pastor and I first came here, we would read the scripture from wherever it was. So, and it was easy for me to remember before we had communion to read it out of Matthew chapter 26, because you know what verse it starts at? 26. Yeah, so it's easy. 26, 26. Very easy. If you ever need to remember where the communion narrative is, it's very easy to remember. First book of New Testament is what? Matthew. That's right. We're going over this kind of stuff because guess what we study in Bible study? Oh, it's the Bible. Who knew? Who knew? So first book of the Bible, first book of the Bible is what? And first book of New Testament is Matthew, right? So if you remember first book of New Testament, Matthew, then the only thing you got to remember after that is one number, 26 and 26. But after there's the breaking of the bread and some of my family members' favorite part, the drinking of the wine. I ain't calling no names. Shout out to my uncles. So some of my uncles and some of y'all uncles, yeah. So yeah, and I mean I wasn't gonna say that part, but and some of us. Okay. I never thought I'd see the day where everything, I feel like I could say pretty much everything is deliverable. Like you can get everything delivered. You know, it started in COVID because people weren't leaving their house. So there were already some companies that were in existence, but they went from millionaires to billionaires during the pandemic. Now, what are some of these companies that will, how about food? What are some companies that will deliver food? DoorDash, yep. Grubhub, Pizza Hut, Uber Eats. Have y'all ever used any of these? It's expensive. Whatever you buying, you gonna double it. You're gonna pay like $7 for a large fry. Although a large fry itself is probably gonna run you almost $4 by itself. Y'all remember back in the day, you can get a large fry from Wendy's for $1. Off of the biggie menu, large fry, large frosty, whatever the burger or whatever that was, yeah, all of that for a fry. Okay, what else? Other than food, what else can you get delivered? Groceries, what else? Furniture, what else? Clothes. You're right, you can't get a car delivered. I know it's probably some people that either in here or people you know got a car delivered to their house. Now, I ain't mad at that because I don't know how your credit is, but it can be a little, uncomfortable. You walking around the car lot, and they come and ask you if you need help, or you know you need help more ways than one. But if you can just sit behind a computer and spare yourself there, I get it. Yeah, just deliver it to me. So also if I get rejected, don't nobody see that either. I know y'all never been rejected for a car or anything like that. So yeah, you can get a car delivered. What else can you get delivered? appliances, toys, pretty much everything. Yeah, medication. I mean, books. I think you can even get guns delivered in the mail. Like you can, during the pandemic, it was a whole lot of people shipping guns and bullets. Believe that. There ain't no problem. I'm telling you for a fact. I know people. I already said too much. I digress. Peter's about to learn a lesson. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 33 through 35, about deliverance. Everything can get delivered, including people. To be taken from one place and positioned in another, that's delivery. Your food was taken from one place, delivered in another. That car that you got off, what is it, Carvana? Is that Carvana the one? Yeah, that you got off Carvana was taken from one place and delivered to another. People are delivered, where we are taken from one place, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, sometimes mentally, but all the time it needs to be spiritually, that God is taking us from one place to another. So in Matthew chapter 26, at verse 33 through verse 35, I'll be reading from the New Revised Standard Translation. Matthew 26, 33 through 35, it says, Peter said to him, this is Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you. Jesus said to him, truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me, how many times? 3 times. Peter said to him, even though I must die with you, I will not deny you. And so said all the disciples. Here's my thing. If all the disciples saying it, why are you calling out Peter? Okay. And if we be honest, denying Jesus 3 times don't even seem like that high of a number. Okay. Y'all don't want to be honest today. Don't really seem that high of a number if we being honest. God hears the words of Peter, who is speaking from a place of faith and strength. He hears Peter say, Jesus, listen, I've heard you say you got to die, you got to be crucified. Matter of fact, it is in the discourse between Peter and Jesus that, remember Jesus says, hey, disciples, who do people say I am? And they say, some say you are Elijah, some say you are a great prophet. And then Jesus asked them what? But who do you say I am? And who speaks up? Peter. And Peter says, thou art the Christ. And Jesus said, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you. Spirit. Spirit revealed that to you. And because Spirit revealed that to you, we're going to build a church based on that kind of faith. And the gates of hell will not be able to prevail against it. I want you to understand the dichotomy of what has just happened. Peter has made a profession of faith. Jesus acknowledges this profession of faith, and in the process of acknowledging this profession of faith, he also immediately says something about hell trying to come against it. Now, fast forward now several years to Peter saying, listen, whatever happens, oh, wait. Let me back up, because the very next thing that happens is Jesus begins to say, the Son of Man is going to have to be, is going to have to suffer. He's going to have to be lied on. He's going to be brutalized, and he's going to die. And Peter, that same Peter just professed Jesus, pulls him to the side and say, hey, man, don't say that. We're in the height of our popularity here. People are not going to follow a Savior. Following a Savior means you got to suffer sometimes. You got to preach a sweet gospel. You got to tell people, like, look at all these people you drawing. You got to tell people what they want to hear. And immediately after Jesus had said, upon this rock am I going to build a church, we find Peter now saying, get behind me. Do you see the dichotomy? Because I need you to understand, when you are also strong in your faith, not only does God hear those words, you know who else hear it? The devil. And when we are in spiritual warfare, what are we fighting for? Our souls. So now, fast forward now, a few years later, Jesus is saying that he has to be crucified. Peter understands this, and he says, listen, wherever you go, I'm going. Whatever happens to you is going to happen to both of us. The disciples say the same thing, but Peter is the one being called out for, because Peter is the one who we're going to see faith. And I need you to understand, God hears your words. God hears your commitment. God hears your honest intent, and the devil does too. And he loves to make a liar out of God's people. Here's the crux of really today's lean in lesson of spiritual warfare. When facing sin, you don't always need deliverance, but you do always need discipline. When facing sin, you don't always need discipline. You don't always need deliverance, but you always need discipline. Discipline. The difference between some of our breakdowns and breakthrough is found in our discipline. Every situation we have, God is not going to deliver us out of, which means not every situation we have is a need for deliverance, but every situation we have is a need for discipline. Look at how close even these words are, disciple and discipline. Because you can't be a disciple of God if you have no discipline. Because the minute things get hard, you will trade in. I will trade in. Jesus, wherever you go, I'm going to go. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. Uh-oh, I'm in some trouble. Well, I'll do whatever I need to do in order to survive this day. This is not a measure of deliverance. This is a measure of our discipline. All right. So now, let's fast forward in the same chapter. Jesus has heard Peter say, I'm going to do whatever you say do. I'm not going to leave your side. I will ride with you. I will die with you. Jesus says, all right. Next thing that happens is he says, y'all come on and go with me to the Garden of Gethsemane. They go to the Garden of Gethsemane. It is Jesus, James, John, and the fourth person there is Peter. Fourth person there is Peter. Jesus goes to pray. He looks over. His 3 disciples are asleep. He goes to them several times. Say, hey, wake up. Stay awake with me. I'm over here praying. I need you to be over here praying with me. See, every situation is not about deliverance, but every situation does involve some discipline. It is all, Peter's discipline is already being tried. And he's losing to his human need and desire to go to sleep. Deliverance, discipline. So by the time you get to Matthew chapter 26 and verse 69 and verse 70. So Matthew 26, 69 through verse 70. Yeah, Matthew 26 is a long chapter. It goes up to 75 verses. Oh, and so you know, the Bible originally was written in scrolls and parchment and not divided into chapters and verses. It got divided into chapters and verses some centuries later to make it easier for us to find various scriptures and chapters and things of that nature. But originally, there were no chapters, just a multitude of scrolls. There were no verses because it was not divided into verses yet. So that's oftentimes why you will hear Jesus say, it is written, because there was no chapter to refer to, nor was it a verse to refer to. So he would say, and it is written. So I tell y'all all the time, you don't necessarily need to memorize chapter and verse. It's good if you do, but just make sure you have the word hidden in your heart. And when you need it, you can say, it is written. All right, so Matthew 26, 69, and 70. Now, Peter, they've arrested Jesus. Let me back up. They were in the Garden of Gethsemane. The Roman soldiers, led by none other than that low-down betrayer, by the name of Judas. Now, we hard on Judas, y'all. But all of us have sold Jesus out. Judas sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. We sell Jesus out for the cool side of the pillow. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Am I right here? Judas sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. In 2023, we sell Jesus out for the cool side of the pillow. Judas sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. In 2023, we sell Jesus out because the person we dating don't want to go to church, so we don't go either. We still selling Jesus out. We still selling Jesus out. At least Judas got some silver in his pocket. We done sold Jesus out for what James Brown would call chicken change. Y'all don't know James Brown sold me out for chicken change. Y'all don't know. In the big payback. In the big payback, you know. I know y'all. That's before your generation. Yeah, I don't. Is chicken change for buying chick? Don't matter. Okay, all right. So, all right. So Matthew 26, 69 through 70. Jesus has been arrested because Judas kissed him on the cheek. The Roman centurions now know exactly who he is, so they arrest Jesus. They bring him to various places trying to find a judge or somebody with authority that will find him guilty. This is the same night. This is Thursday night that Jesus has been arrested. And so this is what happened. The rest of the disciples run away. Peter does not. You got to at least give him credit for that. So Peter follows quietly, closely, to see what's going to happen to Jesus because he's trying to stick by his side. So verse 69 to 70 says, now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him and said, you also were with Jesus the Galilean. But he denied it before all of them, saying, I do not know what you're talking about. Following Jesus has landed him in a sticky situation. Following Jesus, y'all, can land you in some situations you never would choose for yourself. But if I'm going to be in a situation that is perhaps not the best, at least I want to be there because I'm following Jesus. Because if following him brought me to it, following him will bring me through it. I want to create a little social experiment for a moment, all right? I want to create a little social experiment for a moment. On this side of the room, I want you to think for a moment and come up with the argument, a debate argument, you know, about why, let me see, why Whitney Houston is one of the greatest voices we've ever heard. And on this side, I'd like you to devise your debate of why, let me see, Lil Uzi Vert. Is one of the best voices of a generation. Don't look it up. Do not Google it. Y'all can't Google it over here. Y'all cannot Google it over there. Lil Uzi Vert. Lil Uzi Vert, Whitney Houston. Do not Google it. Lil Uzi Vert, Whitney Houston, one of the greatest voices of a generation. Lil Uzi Vert, one of the greatest voices of a generation. All right, are we ready? Let's start with Whitney Houston. What are some of the reasons you would pose that she's one of the greatest voices of a generation? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Because more people know of her and have heard of her. Got it. And she had a voice. Anybody else? Hold on one second, y'all. What? The what? The number of Grammys that she won. Good one, good one. Because she was anointed and she knew God. All right. One more. One more for Whitney Houston. One more. Anybody else got one more? She was a multi-talented. She was an actress and a singer. All right, Lil Uzi Vert. I need you to combat that. Who got? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Say that one more time. He's an unsung hero. All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, y'all. He's the most popular artist in the world right now among a certain age group. Can I? How easy was it for you to develop your case on Whitney Houston? Pretty easy. How easy was it for you to develop your case on Lil Uzi Vert? Is that you made it up very hard, just threw out something generic? First of all, you got to know who you're talking about. Second of all, you have to know what you are talking about. And the more you know, the better you feel engaging in a conversation about it, even if somebody else does not share your particular opinion. Here is one of the pitfalls of Christianity. We believe in the Lord and don't know nothing about the Bible. So when we are confronted with, oh, so you a Christian? We're like, oh, they might ask me a question. I don't know if I gotta, I don't know. Let me, so one of the hesitations that often happens when it comes to being a Christian and somebody asking us about our faith is we feel uncomfortable because we feel like we don't have enough answers. You ain't got to have all the answers, just have your answer. You understand what I'm telling you? You don't have to have all of the answers. You just have your answer. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. What I need you to understand, he said he just made it up because people didn't know. They just were like, yeah, okay, makes sense to me. Listen, I didn't know. I was like, okay, makes sense to me. I was like, okay. I don't know who that dude is. I don't know. I heard of him. I can't, if my life depended on it, somebody's like, name one of his songs right now, I'd be like, can I call my wife before this is over because I just want to say goodbye because I have no idea who he is. Listen, so Peter is confronted. Do you know Jesus? All of us will be confronted. Do you know Jesus? And we have to be comfortable enough with what we know to say, listen, I don't know all of the answers. You're going to be like, well, did you know about this? Did you know about this? I don't know about all of that, but I'll tell you what I do know. There is too much hesitation in the Christian community when somebody say, hey, you go to church? You're like, I mean, I do, but I'm not a biblical scholar. Hey, listen, I know what I know. This is what I know. I believe that God created all things. Oh, so what about science? Listen, science has some answers, but my Bible got all the answers. And I need you to understand this. It don't have to make sense to them. It has to make sense to you. Because when you are confident in who you know, which everyone in here and everyone watching should have a modicum, a healthy degree of, I know who Jesus is for me. So that when you ask me, hey, you one of them people that believe in Jesus? You say, oh, I absolutely am. Oh, well, what do you think about this? This is what I think about it. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. I believe that Jesus is his only begotten Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit, which is our comforter. I believe that the three are one. How does that work? I don't know. I just know it works. Well, how can you believe it? Because faith is the substance. You understand what I'm saying? It don't have to make sense to you. It makes sense to me. I got my answers. And my answers are good enough for me. See, there's a certain degree of pressure for Christians to feel like they have all of the answers, which is why sometimes we don't want people to know we're Christians, because we like, then they're going to be expecting me to be a biblical scholar. You tell them, listen, I know what I know. If you want more answers than that, I suggest you go to church. If you don't want to go to church to get more answers, I suggest you get out my face, because all I got is my answers. All right, I got is, don't. So a servant girl comes to him. Servant girls during that time would typically be responsible for menial tasks, such as cleaning or cooking. They may have had a lower social status, but their observations were still influential, as demonstrated in this story. This encounter took place in the courtyard of the high priest Caiaphas, where Jesus was being interrogated, and he's being interrogated. You can read that in Matthew 26:57 through verse 68. Peter would have been close enough to be aware of Jesus' situation, adding to the pressure that he felt. So Jesus just, listen, y'all got to understand, if they will do that to Jesus, what will they do to me? So Matthew, next verse, Matthew 26 and verse 71. Matthew 26, verse 71. When he went out to the porch, this is Peter. So now Peter, he got up because it got uncomfortable there. You know how it is. You get uncomfortable, you're like, oh, I'm going to leave here, and I'm going to go over there, because if I stay over here too long, I might fight somebody. So I might need to expel myself from this situation. So Peter, when he went out to the porch, another servant girl, here we go again, saw him and said to the bystanders, this man was with Jesus of Nazareth. Question: at what age do we stop dealing with peer pressure? Is it 11th grade? 12th grade? At what age do we stop dealing with peer pressure? There seems to be a consensus in our connected campus. At what age do we stop dealing with peer pressure? Is it 12, 18? Is when we turn 18 and we become an adult, at least legally an adult, although 18 is a kind of a, you know what I'm saying, like how grown are we really at 18? According, scientifically speaking, they say your frontal core or lobe or whatever it is, isn't even done developing till you're 25. That's why they can't let y'all rent cars until you're 25, because they know you're going to rent the car and tear it up because you're going to drive it like it's not yours. Yes, ma'am. So, hands. Everybody that says we never outgrow peer pressure, let's see some hands. Let's see some hands. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The question is, when do we stop dealing with it? When do we stop dealing with peer pressure? When do we stop dealing with peer pressure? Here's my belief. Never. Because if you living, you have peers. Do you know that often why you feel comfortable wearing what you wear is peer pressure? Why you feel comfortable having the hairstyle that you have is peer pressure? Why you feel comfortable wearing the jewelry that you have, the shoes that you wear, the car that you drive, if your house or your home is bright colors or muted colors. Yeah, I watch my children, my sons when Savannah, she was going to paint the bathrooms, and it was about a year ago now, something like that. And so we told the boys, you can pick out whatever color you want. I picked out a color for one room. Savannah picked out a color for one room, and the boys picked out a color for another room. My color was, it was gonna be kind of muted, kind of middle of, not a deep color or whatever, but but it was gonna be color. And Savannah picked the color, 'cause when we pick colors, we pick like eggshell, and we pick taupe, and we pick, those kind of things that are kind of neutral and not very. My sons picked the brightest colors. And they didn't care who liked it. They liked it. They wasn't worried about people coming into the house and being like, ooh, this sure is loud. They didn't care. They weren't picking a color for other people. They were picking the color because that's the color that they like. And the older we get, the more we begin to factor in what somebody else is going to say, what somebody else is going to think. Not what God is going to say, not what God is going to think, what other people are going to say and what other people are going to think. So now Peter has gone from one crowd now to another crowd that she said, hey, y'all, hey, everybody. You're going to call me out in front of everybody. It's like, hey, everybody. That's one of those Jesus followers. So now he's back in a circumstance where there's going to be peer pressure. And you can be saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, on your way to heaven anyhow, and all those other kind of things. You will still feel peer pressure. You feel peer pressure at your job. Feel peer pressure in your home, in your house, because there are outside things in spiritual warfare that can cause some internal strife and struggles. That's what it is. That's how it is. We learn how to deal with it. We ask God to guide us through it, but the fact it exists is what it is. So Peter has gone from one girl saying something to a group of people to now he's transitioned to being on the porch. And all these people outside, you got to understand, Jesus is an extremely popular figure. He just got arrested. They don't have nothing else to do but be nosy. Y'all know how it is when the police pull up to your neighbor's house. Don't y'all act like that. Y'all know how it is when police pull up to your neighbor's house. You looking through the blinds. What's going on over there? Some people even get so bold, they just come outside, just stand on the sidewalk. Be like, Hey, nosy by nature, right? So can you imagine how many people were there? There is no CNN. There is no NBC News. They ain't got nothing to do but be nosy. So now you got all these people, and Peter's standing out there, and she's called Peter out in front of all these people. Can you imagine the peer pressure and the weight of that? See, following Christ, it ain't for the world, y'all. And if you need the world's approval to follow him, you're going to do just like Peter. You're going to be like, nah, that ain't me. I don't do whatever, because the world will set your standard. The peer pressure of the world will set your standard. The peer pressure of the world will set your integrity. The peer pressure of the world will shape your character because you are trying to please them instead of trying to please him. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Why do black folk have peer pressure against each other? Could you expound? What do you mean? Why do we have peer pressure against each other? I'm interested in hearing this. Let me ask you this: who you think uh, uh, more people die at the hands of family than strangers? Because you will be in conflict with those that you are around the most. So just like there's black on black crime, there's white on white crime. There's Hispanic on Hispanic crime. There's Asian on Asian crime. So it is not unique to our community at all. It is just terminology often is given to what we do with each other. All right, I gotta come to a conclusion here. So let me hasten. In Matthew 26, I'm gonna read verse 73, 70.